I am Vijay Kumar Banshiwal, Assistant Professor, English Literature. I am going to explain the poem Ode to the West Wind. The poem was composed by P.B. Shelley. Shelley belongs to the Romantic age of English literature. The poem is written in the form of ode. Generally, an ode is addressed to a person or thing. The poem was written in 1819 and published in 1820. When Shelley wrote the poem, he was living in Italy. Shelley describes the activities of the west wind on land, sea, and sky. The poem is divided in 5 sections. First 3 stanzas are about the qualities and the power of west wind, and last 2 stanzas show the relationship between the poet and the west wind. Each canto has 14 lines. Now we begin the poem. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn spring, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing. In these opening lines of the ode, Shelley addresses the wind as wild because it blows very furiously during the autumn season. Generally in autumn season, strong and tempestuous winds blow, which bring down the withered leaves from the trees to the ground. Poet calls west wind the life-giving source of autumn. Thou, from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing. Shelley uses a very apt simile to describe this activity of wind on land. First, we see what is a simile. In a simile, a comparison is made between 2 objects of different kind, which have at least one point in common. As Ram fought in a battle like a lion. Here Ram and lion are 2 different things, different creatures, but there is one point in common. In both of them, there is bravery. Here, west wind and magician have same qualities. Just as ghosts fly here and there from magician, in the same way, the dead or the withered leaves fly here and there when acted upon by the west wind. A noteworthy feature of this simile is that the immaterial wind is compared to the material enchanter, and the material leaves to immaterial ghosts. The dead leaves are likened to ghosts because they are pale and withered, and the wind as magician. In yellow and black and pale and hectic red, pestilence stricken multitudes. O thou who chariotest to the dark wintry bed. Pestilence stricken means afflicted with some disease or epidemic, and multitudes means a large number of people. Yellow and black and pale and hectic red. The leaves are of various colors and appear to be afflicted with some sort of disease. We can say when some epidemic breaks out, the people of the area run away from that place. In the same way, the dead leaves frightened with the presence of west wind, and they are running breathlessly. O thou who chariotest to the dark wintry bed, the winged seats where they lie cold and low, each like a corpse within its grave, until thine azure sister of the spring shall blow. Chariotest means carries, wintry means cold, and the winged seeds, the seeds which are carried by west wind. Corpse means dead body. Azure means bright blue. Clarion is a kind of trumpet. Here the poet shows the another activity of the fierce wind, which blows in the autumn season, is that it scatters the seeds far and near and covers them with mud, and appears that it is burying a dead body in its grave. The seeds which are carried by the west wind with dead leaves remain in the earth where the temperature is very low, each like a corpse within its grave. Here the poet uses a simile. Just as a dead body is buried in grave, it remains there. In the same way, the seeds which are scattered by the west wind, buried in the ground, remain there till the coming of the spring season. Until thine azure sister of the spring shall blow her clarion over the dreaming earth. Here the poet calls the spring the sister of west wind, and the earth is imagined as a woman who is sleeping in deep slumber, and the spring awoke the earth by blowing her clarion or trumpet, and filled with hues, living hues, and orders plain and hill. When the spring comes, the seeds which were buried in ground sprout into plants which bear flowers and fill the entire plains and hills with fragrances, driving sweet birds like flocks to feed in air. Flock means a group of sheep, hues means color, odors means fragrances. Here the poet uses a simile. Just as a herdsman or a shepherd takes his takes his sheep to graze in the field, in the same way, the spring has made the sweet birds to bloom. Wild spirit which are moving everywhere, destroyer and preserver, here, oh here. The poet calls the west wind wild spirit. Wild means that moves everywhere, and a spirit, a soul, is unseen. In the same way, west wind is also not seen. West wind is likened to wild spirit. Poet calls the west wind both destroyer and preserver. It destroys the dead leaves and preserves the seeds that contains the life of plants. It scatters seeds far and near and covers them with mud, and when spring comes, they bloom. So the west wind is the preserver of the new plants, new life. Shelley was an idealist, a visionary, and a reformer. He was in favor of change because he was disgusted with the existing modes, conventions, and institutions.